Hi, everyone, and welcome. It's August 19th, and thank you for joining today's Tech Talk. My name is Tiana Gibbons, and I'm with JTB Business Travel. I'm so glad to be hosting today's session, so we just want to say thank you to everyone who's joining. For today's Tech Talk, we have a very special guest. It's our technology partner here, Cirium, and we look forward to chatting with these experts. We're lucky to have them here with us today. Just so you know, we do host Tech Talks once a month as part of our series as how technology is helping our travelers return to travel safely. We know that the travel environment is constantly changing, and as your travel management company, JTB Business Travel is here to help. So we're going to host these sessions once a month. You may have seen others when you were doing your registration link, so please continue to join us for these inside looks that our tech partners and industry leaders are offering, because you certainly don't want to miss it. So I'm sure by now, with our current situation, we're all experts at housekeeping rules for webinars. So the first rule is to please participate. And what I mean is that we want to hear your questions. We're interested in your concerns, and we'll try to weave them throughout the presentation when appropriate. If we can't answer them in real time, don't worry, because we're able to reach out to you personally after the webcast. So if you can go ahead and take a look at your GoToWebinar toolbox, there's a question section. It should be right under your audio. If you want to go ahead and type in a quick hello, let us know what part of the world that you're dialing in from today, just so that we know that you know where that question box is. We are in listen-only mode at this time. So what that means is that we can hear, you can hear us, but we're not able to hear you. And that just helps us with the sound quality, because we know working remotely certainly has its benefits, but noise can be sometimes unpredictable, and we want really good quality for the session today. And lastly, this session is being recorded. So you can always access our digital library on the JTB Business Travel website. Maybe you have a colleague that wasn't able to join us today, or if you have a new hire that should be checking out the Tech Talks, no worries, just share this link with them and they'll be able to access a ton of different libraries at different topics in our library. That's a lot of chatting from me at this point, so I'm really pleased to introduce our panelists today. Annette and Nathan from Cirium, thank you so much for taking the time to come chat with us. Ladies first, Annette, you are a key account manager, right, who's proud to work in the travel industry, so near and dear to your heart. I know that you told us that you love travel and adventures and planning trips with your husband. How long have you been working in travel, and with Cirium specifically?
I've been working at Cirium for 3 years now, and prior to that, I was at Amadeus for almost 10 years. So I guess still in the travel industry world, I'm still a youth considering my length of time.
Yeah.
But yes, so a little bit over 12 years.
And where's your most favorite trip that you've taken so far?
Oh my gosh. Oh, there's so many.
Yeah, maybe top two.
The top two, Hawaii and Austria.
Beautiful. So next, we're going to introduce Nathan, who's been a wonderful support for our team here at JTB Business Travel. And Nathan, you are an expert solutions engineer. That's a super fancy title. And you've been in the industry for over 25 years, right? So as your question for an icebreaker, I'd like to know, who is the most interesting celebrity encounter in your travel experience in history? And do you have anyone that's super memorable?
Probably my most memorable one is actually back when I worked at US Air, and I encountered Bob Dole when I was working a flight, and back when he was a senator prior to his run for president.
That's pretty cool. And do I remember correctly, is that you used to support travel for the Food Network?
I did, and I have some interesting encounters with some of the personalities. That one in particular would only go if she can get a black SUV.
Someone high
When she
maintenance.
was,
Yeah.
yes.
And I think that we could probably guess, right? She's had a talk show or two, maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay. And last but not least, for me, my role here at JTB is a fun team called Travel Technology Solutions. And I think that what's fantastic at JTB is that we have a whole team dedicated to researching and implementing the best technologies to improve our travelers' lives. And so what we get to do is help our travelers, and that's probably my favorite aspect of this role is to help them get on their way. So before we jump into Cirium's agenda, I'd like to introduce our general manager here. He's based here in North America. I know, Kirt, you have some exciting new things that are happening, so I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you, Dityana, for that introduction, and thank you, Annette and Nathan, for being here with us today. To be honest, I've never met someone famous in the airport, Nathan, so I envy you, but I do share your love for Austria and Hawaii, Annette. I've had the privilege of being to both places, and definitely on top of my list too. But anyway, I'm not here to share about my passion for travel, although I do love to travel. They say it's a virus too. Maybe not a good joke to make in today's world, but I think we all share that passion for travel. And at JTB Business Travel, we're all about supporting your company, your travelers, to making the traveler experience always more easy, which is it's a challenge in this sort of new today that we're in when we resume travel. So we're very excited that we have some new services, more choices for you and your travelers to help navigate this new reality where we're still confronted with so many restrictions and information that your travelers need to safely return to travel. So we're excited for a new partnership with a technology provider called TripGeeks. They have an integrated solution for our Concur travel users that will help your travelers when they make a booking to already understand some of the challenges, the restrictions that may come with traveling to certain destinations. So this is very helpful, integrated. This is one of the applications of TripGeeks. There's many more. There's the ability to have more information regarding emissions, for instance. We talk a lot about sustainability at JTB Business Travel too for the future. So that's something that it can help with. It can help you with compliance to your travel policies. But for now, it's especially really supporting your travelers when they return to travel and need to have that information during the booking process. So if you want to know more about TripGeeks, we'll have actually a Tech Talks coming up next month that is fully focused to this technology, but also reach out to your client development manager if you want to know more already and how this can really benefit your travelers. Secondly, we're very excited to announce that we are partnering with Sherpa, definitely I think the leading company when it comes to providing information related to restrictions that we all so desperately need. If I want to travel to Hawaii to see if Annette is still right, that that's one of the best destinations, you know, I want to know what does it mean for me to go there. Can I enter? What kind of forms do I need to fill out? Do I need to get tested? All those things we want to have available, and Sherpa provides a really easy user interface that will help your travelers to have that information readily available. This will be on our website under travel tools and travel restrictions, and it's going to be integrated in multiple places in the website and also in the booking process. So your travelers can use this. Also for e-visas, if for any of the destinations so we can travel long haul again, this will also be a place where it will be very easy for your travelers to go through the e-visa process. Anyway, just two examples. At JTB Business Travel, we're really always about providing you the best and the latest technologies, creating that ecosystem for you that you can help navigate the whole business travel process from planning all the way into expense. So we're excited about these new partnerships, and we'll keep informing you about some more exciting new things coming up very soon. And again, it's why I'm very excited about today's Tech Talk with a great technology partner, Cirium. So I can't wait to hear more from Annette and Nathan about their insights in what's happening in the travel landscape and how technology can really make a difference for you and your travelers when it comes to disruptions in business travel.
Thank you so much for all that information. So yeah, definitely sign up for the next Tech Talks. We'll be covering TripKicks next month. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to keep this engaging, keep it rolling. We're going to launch our first poll question to you. And since you're registered here today, we're wondering, do you know Cirium and how their technology helps travelers today? And I think we have a lot of tech-savvy travelers, so I'm going to guess yes, but we'll give everyone a couple of moments to complete the poll before looking at the results. Annette and Nathan, I'm going to put you on the spot. When you speak to your family and friends, do they typically understand what it is that you do on a day-to-day basis?
No.
I was going to guess no, but how about you, Nathan? Do you have to go into like a pretty lengthy explanation or?
Yeah, I have to explain to everybody what I do.
Okay. So that's interesting, but because we have the right audience today, we see that the majority have heard about Cirium, and that's great news that they've heard of industry leaders like you. And we're going to give them then now an inside peek to all the resources and data we're able to access so that they leave here today knowing so much more about Cirium and your technology. So with that, let's transition into insights from data analytics. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Annette.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Tatiana, and happy birthday to you.
Oh my God, now you're putting me on the spot. Thank you. Trying to forget.
No, never forget a birthday. Anyway, well, welcome everyone, and thank you for having us, Tatiana. We're really, really thrilled to be part of this. Nathan and I are delighted to be part of the JTB Tech Talk series. JTB and Cirium have enjoyed a strong partnership in the travel space for several years now, and we are excited to share with you today the foundation on which our partnership is built and how we together help enhance the corporate traveler's experience. Now on with the show. So Cirium is the aviation and air travel business within the LexisNexis Risk Solutions Group segment of RELX. Say that 3 times fast. Some of you who have been in travel for a long time may remember us under the brands of FlightStats or Flight Global. Our mothership, RELX, is a global provider of information-based analytics and decision tools for a variety of business-related industries. RELX serves customers in over 180 countries. It is 30,000 plus employees strong, spanning the globe in more than 40 countries. Being a part of RELX means Cirium benefits from the healthy investments made by RELX in research and development and technology advancement. The RELX businesses are powered with advanced technology and algorithms to assist them in evaluating and predicting risk and enhancing operational efficiencies for their customers. So let's talk a little bit more about Cirium specifically. Our focused Cirium brand transformation continues to build on its solid aviation foundation through advancement and investments in our data and technology. Our growth continues with acquisitions of world-class companies, including brands you may be familiar with, Ascend, Innovata, FlightStats, Dio, Snowflake Software, and most recently, Megaport. Bringing together the heritage, the talent, the data, the technology, and the innovation from each of these brands created a data analytics powerhouse. We launched the Cirium brand in 2019 to take this portfolio forward as one Cirium. Okay, next please. Cirium has a deep aviation and air travel heritage. This is reflected in not only the data, but in the insights and the expertise that runs through our business. We reinvent and reinvent again, helping to transform our business and the industry around us. We adapt to the rapidly changing world and focus on what is relevant to the markets that we serve, as well as anticipate and help predict future trends. The acquisitions we have made have extensively expanded our data portfolio as we brought together multiple data sets. Over the years, we've brought numerous first-time innovations to market, and with advanced technology, we have our business and the backing of RELX's technology focus. We are helping to drive digital transformation for our industry. This means truly adopting automation and solving some key industry challenges. We not only want to create fluency with which we handle data, but we want this to activate data fluency in the industry and break down legacy silos. The unique mix of our proprietary technology skills and processes form the heart of our business, the Cirium core. The Cirium core ingests millions of pieces of data every day from every corner of the air travel industry and transforms them into real-world use to provide a 360-degree of flight. With these, we can build high-value analytics. It is the capability at the heart of Cirium which opens up possibilities for the industry to engage in artificial intelligence and machine learning.
Annette and Nathan, I'm just going to take a pause right here because we've just gone through a ton of information just to comprehend that millions of pieces of data every day. That blows my mind completely. So I thought our travelers might be wondering, Cirium gets information, right, about delays or cancellations before the airlines inform travelers, and that's great, right? Because then as a travel management company, JTB can already start working on alternatives and proactively reaching out to the travelers. So can you share a little bit more about the timing of the information? What and how many sources do you have to get this information?
Yeah, well, I can take a stab at that one. So we've all traveled, and so we know on the day of travel, things change, and they change pretty rapidly. So in many cases, you have decisions that are being made by the airline's operations center, and they'll make a decision, and it doesn't always get communicated in a timely fashion. And with what we do is at Cirium, we are ingesting data points from over 600 sources of worldwide flight status data. And that can be things like government sources or aviation authorities, airline and airport direct feeds, positional tracking partners, and things along those lines. And from there, we're processing over 20 million updates to flight status data on a daily basis on over 100,000 operated flights. And with that, we're a lot of times able to communicate prior to the agent who's working the flight even realizing that the operations center in the middle of nowhere has made a decision about the flight that they're working. And that could be a change of aircraft, that could be a delay or a flight cancellation. And so that gives us the ability to keep people informed. And as a result, people like JTB, you all are able to then realize that benefit of getting ahead of that disruption.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic that it's curated so quickly because I know when we talk to our traveler experience team, right, they're the ones contacting the travelers about the flight delay. The speed in which it happens, I mean, it can mean the difference of missing a connection or having to rebook the next day. So JTB and Cirium on their side, I know for one traveler specifically, we were able to wait list them on a sold out flight and got him home that evening. And nowadays, time, I think, is our most precious commodity. And so we're so proud to be able to support our travelers in this way because sometimes getting them home that night means making it just in time for that tuck-in, maybe that you promised to your little one, or even having dinner with someone that you love. And that's pretty invaluable, I think. So Annette, moving on, you're going to talk about the 8 key data sets, right?
Yes, thank you. So as a leading global provider and analytics provider, we do work very closely with the world's leading aviation and travel businesses. We support every aspect of the aviation industry from traveler services, our TMCs, our OBTs, airlines and airports, as well as finance and government industries. It is our mission to help drive our partners towards that digital transformation. So our aviation data is actually our beating heart, the core on which we deliver the actionable data to our customers so they can realize operational efficiencies, smarter decisions, and enhance their travelers' experiences. The data in the Cirium core that you see on the top of the screen is built from proprietary, researched, and contributory data from over 2,000 sources daily and curated to provide the most accurate and timely information. All right, next screen, please.
Sorry, Annette. I just want to pause right here really quickly because it's interesting that you're able to leverage analytics and tools across so many different industries. And I think that our travelers who are returning to like a completely new landscape of traveling, that they should feel relieved that this data is accessed across so many different kinds of data points. And so although it's a little bit uncertain right now with travel, I think with this data, they feel confident that we're taking the information in real time and we can support them with speed and to make it hopefully as stress-free as possible.
Absolutely. Stress-free is key, for sure.
Yeah, to keep it as low as possible is always the goal.
Exactly. So once we have the actionable data available to our customers, it actually helps to tell a story. So let's take a look at a snapshot in time. So our global schedules, which goes back 20 years and forward 11 months with over 950 airlines worldwide, can tell a story in a single snapshot of domestic air travel. And we have the day of May 31st, 2021. We've all heard about the return to travel airline challenges. And in this snapshot, you can see in yellow the spikes in the schedule cancellations due to the various hiccups in the return to travel. So there we go. So the various hiccups in experiencing perhaps lack of staff available, route changes, and other operational issues that are impacting what should have been. And I think the key is what we're going to be seeing over the next several months is that our flight schedules are going to be very fluid. They're going to change a lot. They're going to be very dynamic because there are so many different, the Delta variant and all the different things that are happening right now are making an impact on what the schedules should be. In a normal year, you may not see that spike. That's right smack dab in the middle of the snapshot. So
yes.
It's quite.
It definitely tells a story.
It definitely does. It definitely does. But we're not always, we also are very interested in what our travelers are thinking. So we took a poll at the beginning of the summer to check the pulse of our beloved travelers. And 74% of them believed that they would travel the same or even more after the pandemic. So we've seen this definitely to be true with our customers who are more leisure focused. They have experienced exponential PNR volume over the last few months, and not just year over year, not just looking at 2020, but also going back to 2019 when it was more normal travel year.
Somewhat normal, yeah.
So what we're noticing is that, can we go back one more slide for a second? So what we're noticing is that the leisure group of travelers is kind of driving the return to travel a little bit at the moment. And we're also noticing that the health and safety concerns are really a very big focus on the respondents of our survey. Okay, now we can move on. All right, and so also of the respondents that have answered, we're noticing that there's some change in the trends of travel, and that some of those folks who have been office dwellers before and may not have traveled before the pandemic are now, as remote workers, are a little bit more dynamic. The team dynamics are changing, and that has changed. So we may be seeing a shift in travel patterns.
So Cirium really has so much data and history at their fingertips. So like looking at this, what do you think is going to be the biggest difference in trends after the pandemic based on these kinds of analytics and data insights?
Well, that's really a great question because there are so many trends happening right now. Just in that example of people who used to be office dwellers are now remote workers, and they're not with their colleagues on a day-to-day basis. So that may increase the amount of travel that needs to be done for those remote working models.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Oh no, it's just that I can definitely see a surge, right, in having to visit central offices because I think more and more companies are reallocating funds that were previously tied to the cost of maybe an office rental or the overhead of real estate. So they can really evaluate those funds, right, that would be necessary and put that towards flying employees in and out throughout the year. I think
Right.
companies have more flexibility now more than ever to source employee talent because anyone can be anywhere. But there's
Right.
really nothing like sitting next to your coworker or colleagues and really maximizing synergy and collaboration with someone in the office.
Absolutely agree. And if you just pick up a newspaper or listen to the news, you're hearing more and more about just the lack of people wanting to work or people leaving their jobs because it's not flexible enough. And so we're going to be noticing that entire trend of, folks moving to positions that are more flexible, and then that is going to require probably more remote gatherings for
Yeah,
travel.
it's been a complete shift. So it'll be interesting to see what your numbers look like in the next couple of years.
Absolutely, absolutely. So speaking of remote travelers, since we have more remote workers, if you can work remotely, why do you need to work remotely from your home office? And our colleagues at Cirium are no stranger to this concept. In fact, our head of North American sales has taken his family on the road in an RV, and they're going across the western part of the country, and he stays connected during the business day. So he has totally taken his office on the run. And we had another sales leader from our New York office, and he found during COVID, New York was rather boring. So he took himself down to Florida temporarily and then to Connecticut. And then another of our sales leaders actually was in Nantucket for the summer, the COVID summer we had last year. So amongst all the reasons to resent COVID, there is a lot of great examples of ingenuity out there. All right, and so while there are those that have taken the opportunity to enhance the remote working environment, I am now going to hand the presentation over to my colleague, Cirium Solution Engineer for Proactive Services, Nathan Greer. Nathan is going to share how JTB enhances the business traveler's experience with Cirium's proactive services. Up to you, Nathan.
Thank you, Annette. And before we jump into Nathan's part, let's just run a quick poll. I think now it's like a good halfway point to start the dialogue, looking at, do you expect more disruptions to impact your travelers compared to before the pandemic? So if we could look into a crystal ball, Nathan, let's put you on the spot as the expert. What are you thinking about the future and disruptions compared to pre-COVID?
Well, the reality is, if you actually take a look at the data and you exclude things like the operational meltdown at Spirit recently, there is actually fewer disruptions than there were prior. And a lot of that is attributed to things like the airlines have built additional padding into their schedules, as well as we've seen the airlines are still lightening their schedules. And so the schedules are going to continue to be fluid for the foreseeable future as the pandemic continues and evolves, and with lockdowns coming and going.
Yeah, that's so interesting because everyone is guessing yes, right? The majority is thinking yes, but the data actually speaks another story.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and jump right in then.
So when we talk about how JTB uses our technology, let's just kind of set the stage. So if we take a look at disruption, disruptions happen and they come in a lot of different forms. Everything from labor strikes, bad weather, natural disasters, pandemics, or just simply irregular operations, things like a minor mechanical delay on a flight or a cancellation. So they come in a lot of different forms. But when we actually take a look at a disruption, so if we look at the next thing, a trip is more than just a single flight. And this is what our technology is bringing to bear. So when we think about a flight and we think about a flight being delayed, the impact to all the travelers is going to be different. So we're going to look at 3 different travelers today. And we're going to have one traveler who's departing on the flight that's delayed, one traveler who's connecting to that flight, and one traveler who's coming in on the delayed flight. So if we take a look at what is happening with them, that tells an interesting and unique story per traveler. So next. So with one traveler, so if we look at traveler A who is departing on the delayed flight, they might be running a little bit late because they're kind of stuck in traffic. But because their flight's delayed, that might mean that they can breathe a little bit easier instead of parking in the valet lot and making a mad dash across the airport. They can take advantage of economy parking and get to their flight in the same manner. For traveler B, who's connecting to that flight, maybe they didn't get lunch before they left out of their originating city, so now they've got a little bit of time to grab themselves a quick snack. But for traveler C, who's arriving on that delayed flight, they may miss their connection, and that might mean the difference of them getting home tonight and having to find a place to sleep in the wonderful, cozy airport, or being able to get home to see loved ones. So when it comes to our communication, that's going to be the next thing we want to take a look at, is how do we communicate with those folks? And this is where messaging matters, because we want to make sure that what we're doing is we're really taking into account what that message is and what that disruption means. So this is where what we do is slightly different. Is we're looking at what is the impact of that disruption, and then we're going to communicate with the travelers and with the folks who are supporting the travelers in different manners. So for traveler A who's departing, we're going to send them a message, let them know, it gives them some reassurance. We're also going to be notifying their agent in the event that there's something that's going to be downline that could be infected. And so that gives the agent the ability to be proactive. For traveler B, that traveler, they're making their connection, they're on their way home, and that means that they now have some reassurance, they know what's going on. And we're all have been in that world where we want to know the latest and greatest information, and that's really what this is all about, that communication. But for that traveler who's not making it home tonight, you don't want to tell them, well, you're not getting home, but we do want to make sure that we engage their support agents as soon as possible. And the reality is, a lot of times when it comes to disruption, we know about that disruption even before many times that traveler is aware. So it gives the folks who are supporting the travelers the ability to really get ahead of that disruption and potentially be able to tell that traveler when they arrive, yes, you did miss your connection, but I now have you on X flight and you're able to get on your way.
So I think it's really great to know that it's not a one size fits all, right? We're not just blasting out a message to all the travelers, but it's really based on their certain situation. And in almost all cases, proactive is better than reactive. So we're able to help them depending on their situation.
Right. And so when we lift the curtain, we're going to actually show you a little bit of what happens behind the scenes with JTB. So your agents, whether you know it or not, are actually working on a daily basis, and they're working on a dashboard that we provide to them that is monitoring your travelers' trips. And then we're going to communicate to those agents what's going on with those travelers' trips, and then provide them a priority list of travelers who need to be addressed. So we're monitoring for cancellations, for flights that divert and land in the airport they're not supposed to, or for travelers who are not going to make their connection. And with that, what we do is we are going to look at those conditions and we're going to communicate that impact to the agent. So with the next screen, this is what your agents are actually seeing when your traveler is disrupted. So in this case, we're looking at a flight cancellation. And we can see that we've got that traveler's complete itinerary from start to finish. And we're showing them the conditions of their existing flights and their downline flights. So we can see in this case, we have a traveler who's canceled. And this cancellation was noted at 6:50 p.m. for a flight the next day. So this gives really that kind of view into letting that traveler or letting that agent know well in advance what's going on with that traveler, so they're then able to take that action. And from there, the agent's able to actually start documenting what they're doing. So the next step that they look at is once they've arranged the protection, or they've gone through and they've worked to resolve that traveler's issue, they're then going to document within our system what actions they took. And if there were additional minutes added to the trip, or if there was time saved, if they're able to come up with something better than what the airline comes up with, then they can document that for you. And then that leads into when the agent is taking a look at that traveler's trip in the long run, they can actually see a continuum of what's happened. So we don't hide the fact that the traveler's had a disruption. We show really that history of what's happened with that traveler. So if you have a traveler who's had lots of issues on a trip, that really is something that the agent's going to notice when they're looking in our platform, and they're going to be able to reach out to that traveler, give them that extra little bit of TLC, and reassure them that there is somebody behind the scenes that's looking after them.
Yeah, and I think that's the best feeling, right? Because like we know travelers can book travel anywhere, but where the value comes in of having a travel management company as a partner is look at how much is going on behind the scenes to make sure that your trip goes as smoothly as possible, right? We were talking about avoiding stress. So this should really add another layer of confidence that when they do begin to resume travel, if the landscape looks a little bit differently, not to worry, because we're evolving and we're adjusting to what's going on.
And this really comes and ties into what's really important for the travel manager. And that is really getting that analytics and looking at what has been impacted, how have your travelers been impacted. And that turns into being able to come back to you and show you on how, as a travel management company, we've been proactive. We've worked to resolve your travelers' issues, and documenting on what kind of minutes we've added, or what those costs are, because time is money. And so we really want to highlight to you as a travel manager on what it is that your travelers have been impacted and what is the real cost of travel.
Mm-hmm. And so Nathan, this is a fantastic, peek to see what's going on, right, behind the scenes. But if you could just break down something for us, just looking at this, we call this actionable data, right? But what are some insights or stats that you can share in how this technology is helping companies save money?
So beyond what you see on the screen with the reporting, these are documented actions from the agents, from things like overnights avoided and whatnot. We also do have our travel waiver services, which is used by JTV Business Travel. And that platform keeps agents and travelers informed when major disruption events happen, and the airlines issue their travel waivers for those travelers that are impacted. And that allows travelers to do things like make changes for no additional collection, that waives penalty charges that they might exist on a trip, but it also helps to deal with things like if a trip doesn't go off, it's the ability to refund a non-refundable ticket. And all of that ties into savings for the corporation. And this also allows JTB to be proactive, because the nature of most disruptions are known before that last minute when the traveler finds out about it. And so JTB is able to then get travelers out of harm's way and resolve issues a lot of times even before the traveler even knows something's happened.
Yeah, so the speed in which Cirium can supply this data is so helpful because, we want to be proactive. And I think our travelers appreciate, saving a trip to the airport or the aggravation of waiting in endless lines or even feeling helpless. So that's awesome.
So we also provide some other actionable insight that can come out of trip disruption that a lot of people don't think about. And so some of the things that we can highlight are what are the most disrupted routes for a traveler. So with that, if you have a corporate program with an airline and you have a poor performing route, that gives you the ability to really engage with the airline and engage with your client relations manager at JTB to highlight areas of opportunity. So other things that we can highlight are things like disruptions by hour of the day. So we can tell you when things are happening. And so from a traveler's perspective, that might mean I might consider shifting my travel to a time of day that's not as highly disrupted. Or if we look at the days of the week, and that's our next little insight, is the days of the week. We can again highlight what days of the week are the most disrupted. A lot of that does follow a traditional travel pattern. But there again, I might, as a corporate traveler, be willing to make some adjustments and slide things around so that I have less disruption.
Yeah, let's avoid Friday, is what this chart says.
Yeah, Friday and Monday tend to be the worst days to travel.
It's also the worst day to go to the DMV, also as an FYI, to renew your license. So we'll avoid Fridays. Everyone can travel on a Tuesday. That sounds good.
And then we also are highlighting who are your most disrupted carriers. So again, if you have a corporate program with an airline, these are really insightful to basically come back and engage across the board. And then my favorite one is your disruptions by traveler, because having been somebody who traveled a lot in the past, as well as having managed travel on the other side, you never know who your most disrupted travelers are. And a lot of times we think the person we think is the most disrupted generally isn't. And the people who live on the airplanes don't normally complain. They just roll with the punches. So this gives a deeper level of insight. And I've seen customers in the past that have done things like highlighted their travelers that are the road warriors and living on the airplanes, and done things like, hey, we see that you had 3 disruptions last month, whoever the first person is, and we think that's pretty significant. And as a thank you, we've bought you a Skyroom pass or something like that. And there have been lots of times where it really gives a lot of deep level insight. Because from a travel management perspective, I definitely want to make sure that I'm keeping an eye on those people, but also I'm really highlighting what they actually do for the company.
Yeah. And I think that's powerful information to leverage, right? So where others might see obstacles, here at JTB partner with Cirium, we're trying to focus on opportunities. And so our clients, with the support of their client development team, can really influence some pretty creative solutions, I think. All right, Nathan, so thank you for letting us geek out with you over those numbers and pie charts and graphs. I think that the data is really gold for our clients, and I'm wondering if we were to take a step back to look at the trends you're seeing in these numbers. We know that road warriors, experienced travelers might be a little less travel savvy now than before COVID. So what are some of the tips and insights you guys can share?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take this one on. So yeah, there's definitely, COVID has really changed the landscape of just travel in general. Everything seems to take a little bit longer going through security. You never know if there's going to be a concession open, so bring a snack, try to think ahead a little bit, if you know you're going to have a couple of layovers and you can't, you're not going to get a full meal on the plane anymore these days.
No, just
So
pretzels, that's all we get.
grab a banana or just be prepared to not have the same amenities that you're used to. Even some of the offices at the airport are not open. So just be aware of what is not available to you. Make sure if you're one of those people who flies into the airport at the very last minute, hoping to get your TSA pre-check and get through the line and get to your gate, don't do that right now.
Let's not do that. Pack an extra sandwich. So I think, yeah, we have to prepare for the unexpected now more than ever. So
and make sure you have your boarding passes downloaded. Try to do as much hands-free things as possible. I know American has a new, like printing off your bag ticket a little bit easier. So just make sure you're doing as much of the hands-free as possible.
okay, Annette, thanks so much. Those are great ideas to prepare for as much as possible for our next trip and our next travel. So I know that we covered a lot in the last 45 minutes, but let's wrap up and look ahead and looking forward for the future of Cirium and how has the pandemic really impacted your position and strategy? Have you had to pivot with this new environment?
Yeah, so Cirium is no stranger to the impact of COVID. Just like every other business, we've sort of had a profound effect from the pandemic in many, many, many ways. So what we've decided to do is refocus and modernize and update our behind the scenes data and processes. We want to take the opportunity to take this time to make us stronger and provide better data and analytics moving in the future. We've even launched into a couple of discovery modes for new types of data, such as, we're in the process of researching Scope 3 emissions data, where we are taking our fleet, our status data, our knowledge of airline operations, and all the pieces of data that fit in that category. And we're working with the airlines and aircraft manufacturers to build and understand and calculate the insights around emissions. So we're just trying to, be creative, step out of the box a little bit and move forward in a direction that we may not have done before because, it was status quo. So we are looking to new adventures in the Cirium world. So
yeah, so we have to focus on the positives, right, of a good pivot. And so with Scope 3 emissions data, right, we're talking about our carbon footprint and specifically with business travel, I think that's really great because companies are more and more concerned, right, about carbon emissions. And I know that we can do better to improve our impact on Mother Nature, and businesses should feel responsible to reduce the environment impact. And your role at Cirium in this process is pretty remarkable. So we want to thank you, Annette and Nathan, so much for sharing your expertise and knowledge. We feel so lucky to have had you here today with us.
It was really a delight to be here, Tatiana. We appreciate your time and we appreciate your partnership. And we hope that if anyone has any questions, please, have the questions forwarded to us and we'll be happy to provide an answer for you.
Yes, for sure. So with that, we're looking ahead. Here's our friendly reminder to join our upcoming webinars like Chatting with TripKicks in September, Crisis 24 in October. You don't want to miss it. Here I had mentioned before, TripKicks is going to be a really cool tool for your company in this new and ever-changing landscape. So I'm counting on seeing all of you there. This concludes today's session, though. So again, thank you, Cirium. Thanks you to everyone who spent the past 45 minutes, almost an hour with us. I hope you walk away feeling great about the technology that supports your travels, our contact information is right here. Should you have any questions, we look forward to chatting with you, and we'll see you all next month. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.